there. So I'm up here to present launching AVITI, the story after our launch day, which was March 14th, which is Pi Day, coincidentally. But before we get started, there's a much more important thing on the horizon tonight, and that's the Celtics-Warriors game. So for those of you who aren't watching, I just want to know that I have no ill will toward the Warriors, but I definitely want the Celtics to win. I hope the Warriors lose. So that's the competitive spirit in me. So with that being said, I said the most important thing that basically comes out of that is that we're all competitive in this room, and that's for sure. As scientists, we want our stuff to be, our discoveries to be the best, and we want to be leading the field in what we're doing, and that's important because it gets everybody to be better. But with that, we're all aiming to accelerate learning through collaborative discovery, and none of us individually can uncover all the mysteries of biology, but collectively we can. And so really looking at sort of the end goal for all of us is really increasing the time and speed of which people can get results, understand what's wrong with them, and get out of hospitals and actually have medications that work. And so we're all here to do that same goal, and hopefully down the road we'll all be working together to sort of achieve that goal, because definitely there's a lot more work to be done, even though there's so much great work that's been done already. So with that being said, Element's goal was really to try to do something like that for sequencing. We knew that we needed to provide affordable sequencing with no trade-offs, and the ask was really pretty straightforward: best-in-class data quality, affordability, flexibility in a workflow. And really the challenge of that is really decreasing the cost per gigabase, or the cost per data point, without scaling the throughput, without increasing capital equipment costs, and without sacrificing data quality. This was a big challenge. So when we broke down the system of sequencing is actually pretty straightforward. It's a surface assay. And anybody else who knows that running surface assays, the big difficulty with surface assays is our surfaces themselves. And so foundationally at Element, we really wanted to look into the picture of building an inclusive system of all the pieces that go into assays. And by studying surface chemistry and understanding the processes that really allowed us to get a low background surface chemistry, it really helped us deliver something that was a real tantamount to our goal, was achieving high signal to noise for all of the data that was coming off the system, because that gave us the best chance at high data quality. Now, if you look at the surfaces that we've put together here, we also thought about evolving those surfaces. What if we wanted to use them for other assays? What if we wanted to collaborate with people on protein assays or use cell assays? All of those things can be imparted into our existing workflows and processes, and we can make those surfaces as well. So that went into the foundational elements of the chemistry for Element. So when you change the surface chemistry, everything else changes, because now you have a low binding surface and nothing else can bind to it. So then you've got to figure out how to amplify in that surface. And so we spent a lot of time in this state. You can see we spent a lot of years trying to figure this out in order to be able to deliver high quality amplification on a low binding surface. By doing so, we have been able to deliver ultra low optical duplicates, high output at low DNA input, and negligible index hopping. So the high output at low DNA input, if you're looking at the numbers here, Semyon actually presented this the other day in our workshop, in our lounge. You can see that we're running above the actual 800 million plus spec, and our quality, even at above 800 million spec, is pretty good. So the Avidity sequencing, what is this about? Well, Avidity sequencing really leverages way back technologies, of course, before most of us were around, or the dinosaurs were around, and that's antibodies. The other packs of Avidity sequences are used in drug discovery. But the idea here is that you can reduce the amount of reagent that's required for you to do sequencing, because there's a 100-fold increase in the affinity of these substrates for the chemistry. You can also mask phasing and pre-phasing, and that allows you to get rid of that deleterious color that causes deterioration of your signal. And then ultimately a scarless DNA, which I think still we're trying to figure out exactly how much that implicates in terms of the quality of the sequencing. But the result of that is industry-leading data quality, which if you looked at, Semyon also had a talk on that, and we can download this data. We're well into the Q40 specifications, industry-leading indel calling, and uniform ATGC coverage for this kind of chemistry. But you can't do that without an instrument, and the instrumentation that we built here is something. I've been in the field of microscopy for 25 years, something I know that's been elusive in the field of microscopy and now is in our commercial instrument. High field of view and high edge-to-edge performance across that field of view. an algorithm that was invented in Element, something that allows us to leverage random flow cells and get those high densities that you're seeing, and then telemetry in order for us to service and support your instruments and ensure that you have high quality instruments running at all times. The workflow is something we put two workflows together in order for you to have seamless compatibility with the existing workflows. We put our own Elevate workflow that has some advantages, and we'll continue to improve upon that. We also did an indexing solution here that allows you to continue to do indexing, and with the low index hopping, we still think there's some opportunities in unearthed stones here. Again, these are the fine details of the chemistry that a lot of times are overlooked. But we really we were fastidious in nature in being able to make sure that all of these things were delivered with our box. So in the wake of transparency, which we at Element are really fundamentally scientists all the way from the top, and Molly is the CEO, all the way to the rest of the folks at the company, we want to be transparent where the data is. We're going to show you the data. This is our beta data. And you can see the beta data is basically an evolution of the beta placements that we had across the country. You can see in the top graph, we had a reagent version update, and you can see that we changed our specification. We started to change it to 90% Q30 because we could see that we could achieve that. The number of million reads that we got, we're steadily always achieving above what our specification is, but you can see that there's some areas here where there are some points where basically the known sample input error or sample input titrations caused some values that were a little bit below the 800 million. But on the right side, you see the actual distribution of what those runs looked like. So this is 40 total runs across the entire sample for the beta sets, and really something that we wanted people to be able to see, to trust that we basically are as fastidious about this as anybody else in the field. And then finally, we began shipping in May. We have superior performance from our early customer data, and you'll see some of that to follow. But this is another area of which we continue to be ready to be shipping as of today. Now, this is another question that comes up: robust supply chain, manufacturing, and service and support. When we designed the chemistry from the get-go, we thought about things all the way downstream. When we were designing surface chemistry, we weren't thinking about, well, hey, what's the best surface chemistry? Because that's not going to get you very far if you can't manufacture it. So all of the chemistries that we put together, we were designing and optimizing for manufacturing and supply. And by doing so, we were able to stand up the operations and manufacturing organization almost in parallel. And by doing that, that allows us to be commercially ready. We've run over 11,000 sequencing runs in-house on 28 instruments, so we have a lot of understanding and learnings about the consumables that we're shipping out as of today. And then the service and support organization has trained and done a really great job in being sure that they can service and support any instrument that you take in your field. Now, there's no instrument that can operate alone, going back to the original premise that we're all working together. So it was important for us to establish the ecosystem of partnerships that exist in the field today. This is some of the data that we've shown using the AVITI platform for proteomics, and this is working with Olink. And I'll just pass through some of these slides to give you some presentation so you get a note on what we're actually able to do and some of the collaborations, if you're interested, are down in our lounge. Capturing single cell opportunities. We worked very closely with 10x. They're very gracious in working with us, and we were basically able to hit their expectations and exceed those. So our single cell applications are highly effective on our system. The impact of understanding rare disease. I won't go too much in detail. Samuel also talked about this the other day in our lounge, but really the opportunity to run a trio on this system, and this is some of the data that came off of that trio study, in order for us to get closer to the end product or the end patient. That is really the ultimate goal of all the systems that we're building. And then finally, just expanding our ecosystem reach. This is just a handful of the partners that we've established, completed, and run through our AVITI system to validate and verify it. And ultimately, we're still working with even more partners, and we're hopefully open to any partnership that would be open to working with us. And then finally, on the coming attractions, the instruments and consumables aren't introductory pricing. This pricing is fundamental and foundational to the system that we built and put together. So the other opportunity that we're putting together is financing and leasing options. And if you place your order by June 30th, become an innovation partner, you get an extra year of warranty. And then we're also delivering a 2x75 kit at the end of Q4 in 2022 for $1,000, $1,080, and the single cell users will be getting $1 to $1.35 per million reads. And then ultimately bundled discounts on the instruments, 3 AVITIs for $249K each. And so those are the things that we're just beginning to launch, and we're really open to hear your suggestions as other things that might be helpful for you to get your work done. And then finally, acknowledging the whole Element team. This has been a Herculean effort. It's been a lot of work. We really devised and went through all the pieces that go into the chemistry. I do want to call out Molly's leadership here. She's not up here on the stage today, but all her leadership and a fastidious nature of keeping us to task. You know, I basically, when I was a kid, my friend's father always used to have him raking leaves and doing the gutters before we could go play basketball. He was tough but fair. And that was one of those lessons, I think, that I learned early on, and that's one of the things that I think Element's all about, is really deliver what you need to deliver and be tough but be fair, and that's really what's gotten us here. So thanks to Molly for the leadership, and I'll pass it on to Andrew Caller.